All right, Mr. and Mrs. American, all the ships at sea. It's Joey Sauce, the boss for Connie Confidential. Sans Mr. America, who is out traveling with his paper calendar. I'm sure he has it in his back pocket so that he could put his dates in. But unfortunately, we didn't make the calendar today. But I'm here once again with Margaret Garcia from Grit PPO. You may remember her from the Art of the Phone Call, AOPC. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you. Good morning.
So, for those of you that don't know, I would ask what rock you've been under, but I'll tell you again. Grit PPO is all-inclusive call center, answering your calls, making notes in your CRM. Pretty much they'll do anything that you'll allow them to do in the back office in regards to calling and speaking with customers. So, Margaret, we talk all the time, but we haven't talked on air in a while. What's new since the last conversation that we had regarding phone calls, especially as it pertains to pest control? And you're doing landscaping as well, right?
Lawn care, tree and lawn services, pest control services, wildlife. Those are pretty much the nature of the calls that we support in the industry.
So what's, as Ed Sheeran would say, the latest?
The latest in the industry, I think there's a heightened sense of awareness when it comes to customer service in this environment. That's what I'm picking up, understanding how your voice, the words that you speak is your instrument, and just learning to play an instrument. You've got to practice, you've got to be taught, you've got to perfect it, that it's a skill. And so I see a lot of awareness around customer service training, which is amazing, right? Because we've always talked about that and supported that. And I think there's just that heightened awareness that this part of the industry, this side of the service, the phone calls, is having more attention and more importance brought to it.
That's a good point. We've had this conversation. You focus so much on the technicians because they're the ones out there, but a bad phone call can ruin whatever good work that they've done.
Yeah, Magazine did an amazing article on it, but it was the post-COVID era that kind of sparked it because you realized right now you were leveraging phone calls and people being remote and what was happening on the phones and customer service. And there was a little spark. There hasn't been the huge bonfire that I would like, but the spark is there.
I think it's there. A lot of companies that have already been doing it before COVID, but I think it's there similar to Quality Pro in the industry. Only 3% of the industry are certified Quality Pro, whatever it is. It's the same thing. Some people care, some people don't. If the business owner doesn't care, it's not going to get done regardless of how good the team is. We've seen that where people care and people don't.
When it comes to customer service, in any environment where your customer service is on the phones, it's where you're at. What you're asking people is to bring me emotional labor, give me emotional labor, right? I might not be crawling into a crawl space and having to carry a ladder and stuff like that, but this is emotional labor. And that takes a certain type of person to be able to rebound from one call to the next, not take the emotions of an angry customer call into the next call that could potentially be a sales call where you have to be smiling and you have to be on and you have to make a great impression. So we're asking emotional labor of our team, not necessarily learning things about pests and learning the softwares, but really being in a good mood 100% of the time. That honestly is a talent and a skill set. So where a lot of people, even in that interview process, when you're interviewing customer service reps, and you're like, why do you want it? And they're like, oh, I just love helping people. I'm like, no, that's not the real reason why you're in it. That's such a line. That's like such a line. I just love helping people. No, you don't. Not in this environment where the expectation is to exceed expectations, but have limited resources. You do this because you have a superpower, because you know that you can bring the sunshine every day. You do this because you may not have had the right label for it, but you're great at customer service in a sense of you can provide accurate, efficient information. You have call control. You just maybe didn't know that these were the labels to describe that talent that you have. It's helping people is a byproduct of it.
That is one of those answers that you just check off the box. I love helping people, and this is a business that helps people. Check, but it's not genuine. That's why I like the behavioral assessment we use, because it gives you out of the box questions to ask based off the person's personality assessment. So, well, you've been in customer service for a decent amount of time doing this, from answering the phones yourself to running a call center in, right? That you were running a call center in and now owning your own. So how has it evolved specifically within the industry over the years?
Communication and just being able to be on this side of the phones over the years has evolved a lot. The landscape has evolved in the sense that like customers have evolved, right? Their knowledge, their understanding about pests because they have access to information has evolved. Their patience level in turn has changed because they just expect you to have the solution immediately as soon as you answer the phone because they've already researched it. They already in their mind have an idea of what it takes to fix it. Therefore, so should you. And so even when training customer service reps, you have to teach them to be a little bit more knowledgeable about pests, where maybe 10, 15 years ago, you didn't need to be advanced in understanding the differences between pests or what causes their infestations. You just needed to book an appointment. That's it. People were fine with that when you get off the phone. No, now there's a lot of why is this here? How did it get in my house? Does it bite or sting? What's the technician going to do when he gets here? There's a lot more involved in the phone call because consumers have leveraged their knowledge and understanding of pest issues.
Everybody is more educated, from the consumer to everybody in the company has to be. And everybody has to have the wherewithal to be comfortable saying, I'm not 100%, let me get back to you. Because that's where Google will jam you up, or whatever search engine they decide to use will kill you nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, from being on the phones with customers, you also have to have that especially when it comes to, I think, new business calls, right? You have to have that leverage. You have to have that one up. You have to be the most knowledgeable person on the phone. They can have information about what the pest is and why is it, but you've got to have something one step above because you're the pest professional. So there's always got to be a little bit of leverage and differentiation.
Yeah, it's just speaking on saying things that aren't true, that have been industry myths forever. People are still saying that, oh, I got mouse poison that makes them leave your house once.
Oh, they go outside. They get thirsty. They leave your house and they go outside, so they flee.
I remember when I was like, why did they go out? The first time I heard that, I was like, why did they go outside?
Yeah.
And the person was like, to look for water. I said, but they're in your house where there's water. I don't understand why they would go outside for water. It's also 10 degrees out. I think that they would find the water dripping off the pipe in your house. But people, we've had someone the other day call and say, I need the poison that makes them leave the house. I was like, it doesn't exist.
Just evolved. I remember being a young CSR and customers, they would feed you things like that. And as a CSR, you'd be like, yeah, that's true. What's the harm in saying yes, that's true?
Peace of mind.
Yeah, you'd agree with whatever it was that they said. Like now you have to watch because now you're setting the expectation. Now the person on the phone told me X, Y, and Z. So you have to be careful what you nod your head and say yes to. But in experience, me 10 years ago, I could totally see how it's evolved.
Yeah, and your patient, I got a 1-star review last week, and it was somebody that called us out. Thank God for technology, right? Anyway, we did the research. They called us for flies. We went out for flies. We saw flies, did a treatment, flies, no issues. The flies were identified. The technician that went out said they were fungus gnats. This year, the person calls, tells us they have termites. We say, oh, all right, we'll come out. We'll let us do an inspection. Everything's scheduled. They call on a Saturday morning, cancel the inspection and say, we're going to go a different route. Leave us a 1-star review, basically saying that we missed the termites. But we didn't. You hired us for a fly treatment. They said they didn't offer us a discount. No, we didn't offer you a discount because it's not a service that we messed up on last year. But anyway, this goes to twofold. One, the CSR should have bumped this up, or at least make this customer service manager aware that there was drama. The CSR followed protocol and said basically no, because there was no involvement of the same pest, but they probably should have bumped it up to a manager to follow it. But literally the phone call, they canceled, and 10 minutes later, there was a 1-star review saying that we weren't willing to work with them at all, and we missed it. It's crazy. And we called and had the conversation. They were sticking to their story, but what are you going to do?
So even from a customer service training perspective, one of the things that I always train my CSRs on is those quick clicks. As soon as you pull up a customer's account, doesn't matter what they're calling about, I click on service history, I click on notes, like immediately while the person's confirming their name on the account. So if you've heard me in the past talk about that call flow, we teach customer service reps that when you pull up somebody's account, you want to ask them, what's the name on the account? And you're leveraging a couple of things there. I ask somebody to tell me the name on the account. One, it validates that I'm in the right account. Two, it lets customers pronounce their name for me so that I can make sure to pronounce it correctly when I say it. And even in those quick seconds, right, it's the quick click that we teach, that it's always history, notes. Immediately, I want to know, no matter what this customer's calling about, has there been a repeat in the history? So that, like you said, I can then go on and communicate to a service manager if I'm booking an appointment, this customer's called again, or quick notes. What's the historical documentation on this account? Because those are also things that you leverage, but you leverage as it's being said to you and the customer's bringing it up. And then you're having to let me take a few minutes to review that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the call flow. That's why your calls are 1/3 to 1/4 the time of your competitors.
Is there a math to it? I'll have to use that in my advertising.
I just
I've always gotten
remember,
feedback, but yeah.
yeah, I remember something like our friend that switched to maybe 2 years ago told me that your average call when he spoke to somebody that's been using you for 3 or 4 years was 3.5 minutes, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And his were 12. His average phone call was 12 minutes with the big dogs. And that was his deciding
Mm-hmm.
moment where I was like, all right, so you're getting potentially 3 to 4 phone calls for the same price of one. What's the closing rate? And then it was a slam dunk for you. But listen, don't take my word for it. I think there's a whole bunch of other things that are decided on a call, but that was the average call. So everyone is not like that. Remember, it's an average. One could be 7 minutes, one could be 1.5. Just understand what that is. Those of you listening that like to pin us down and say, you said.
Yeah, it's definitely an average, but even trying to adhere to maintain an average like that, it definitely goes into the training that starts from, like I just said, what you're viewing, what you're saying, and how you're saying it. But there's definitely going to be those phone calls that are longer than what you are, the elder community that you want to exercise a little bit more patience. There's always a need to pivot for different phone interactions.
When we first did AOPC, we were probably talking about algorithms, right? As funny as that is, because it's not barely 2 years. How has it already changed the game? Artificial intelligence in general?
I think that the whole advancement in technology has just given us access to information faster, right? The same way Google kind of changed things, leveraging information, getting processes streamlined and becoming more efficient. I think that artificial intelligence, it's been something that we've had even in our call environments. That's where a customer calls in and they're speaking and they're saying operator or sales instead of pressing one or pressing two. So that's always been there. And now you're just taking it to the next level. Now there's just different ways with leveraging technology on your live chat that turned into chatbots, that turned into just accessing information or just getting the customer to the right place faster. Right. So I think that technology is always going to continue to advance. So even things right now that we might not be happy with the way that they perform or might have a bad taste in our mouth about some things, that's not going to be the way it is 5 years from now, even sometimes 5 minutes from now.
Everybody's afraid of change. And people might not like the word afraid, but cautious, whatever. Change is always, oh God, I got to change again. But being in business, that's every friggin' day. But this is definitely one of the biggest disruptors since, as Ed Sheeran would say, we got on the line. And even in our AI podcast, which seems like it was a year ago, which was only a couple months ago, that was one of the things mentioned. It is crazy though how quick it's changing, or how quick we're changing to utilize it. How are you, if you are, utilizing tech to streamline the phone calls and improve Grit's efficiency?
Internally, it's funny. It's like one of those things where you've just got to lean into it. And before I was like everybody else, I didn't want to lean into it, but it really helps everything from training, from creating training content. I imagine out there in the world that somewhere there's nobody that's sitting there with writer's block because you could get that boost of inspiration from something. I know that even myself, just doing all of my training content has always just been my words, my depictions of things, my explanation of things. And one day in my training platform, and that little button pops up and just it sneaks up on you and it goes, hey, AI assistance. I'm like, I'm not pressing that. It can't replace me. And then you hit the button and you tell it what you're looking for, what you want it to say, and it spits it all out in 10 seconds. And you're like, yeah, that's pretty much how I would have said it. And then now all I have to do is tweak it. And I just have to modify it. And then I just have to make it fit to my own environment or my own thought process. But at least the skeleton is there. And so that has saved so much time in just developing training content, which then in turn makes my team that much more efficient, that much faster at getting the information to them. The technology from that standpoint has been great. We use it internally then to create better processes for our customers and also just communication for their customers, right? Because we're a call support, contact center support solutions. We've obviously used it in those ways of chatbots, and we're looking at AI assistance in a way that is more streamlined to our environment, our phone calls, our types of calls. So we're definitely leaning into it as much as possible. Yeah, I miss the days of a customer calling up and asking us when we're in the area, and I would look up at my clipboards and pull a
I
clipboard down. Let
That
me
was
see here.
such a nightmare. With the last time I did that, I had three technicians and it was such a nightmare. I was like, what are we doing? This is crazy. Something's got to be better than this.
How many
And
years did it
then we
take?
started with spreadsheets.
How many years did it take to get the sound of that dot matrix printer out of your head when you would print everybody's service tickets?
It was crazy, but it's definitely changed the game.
It's like the other part of it, the hardest part sometimes now about technology changing constantly. Like I said, 5 years, 5 minutes is sometimes you're not aware. I think so much of even my time as I master this new platform or feature that I've used to leverage and advance what I'm doing, and then all of a sudden it updates and it does something even better. And now you've got to learn that. Even Chat GPT, I think I was the last one to learn, or maybe I'm not. You could do that with Chat GPT. Not only are you typing in it, but you could literally say, find me a picture of bugs on a plate with this sitting next to it, and it literally will procure that image for you the way that you said it. So I didn't even know that it was used for imaging now. And I
Yeah.
was still just learning how to leverage, how to put in words and text to it.
Really, you're not going to have to learn anything to a certain extent. You're just going to tell artificial intelligence now create all of those formulas that we've done in Microsoft Excel equal sum parentheses. You just need to say, hey, in cell A34, I want it to equal this, and it'll just going to do it for you. We did a budget with the accountants one year, and the amount of symbols in the cells, I was like, bro, I can't do, is this done on purpose? So I have to use you every year? Like,
Yeah.
I want to know how to do a budget one time and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But all that's going to go to the wayside with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing.
Okay, so you said before chatbots and whatnot, with the rise of all this digital communication, chat or different channels, different ways to communicate, how you maintain the relevance and efficacy of the calls in your outreach efforts.
We talk a lot about technology and the way that it plays a role in our environments. But I think you're always going to need human interaction. There's always going to need to be that person that receives the information, that person that processes the information, no matter how fast technology is getting it to you. And when you're in the home service environment, there just is that need sometimes to always speak to somebody. So there's a lot of usefulness for the average customer who maybe just needs something really quickly, like an appointment that's streamlined and cleaned, right? It's a part of their service package. They just need this date and time. But then there's always this large percentage of people that have an issue that want to speak to somebody, that have a billing issue that want to speak to somebody, that have a service issue that want to speak to somebody. And you just can't replace good old fashioned, like, I need to hear somebody so that I could yell at you, so that I can make you feel the way that I feel. I just don't think that was something that goes away in this industry necessarily.
It'll be interesting, but our youngest children, when they're adults, 10 years from now, right? 15 years from now, is that really still going to be the case? Or are we going to be those old, annoying people that only live in one area of the world, and that's where people that want to talk to people live? I'm going extreme, but it does feel like it's going to get phased out at some point. But maybe to your point, certain industries will still need that interaction. But there's some common challenges faced by the small business, small pest control or lawn and tree care when it comes to handling the phone calls.
I think that hasn't changed. I think the issue is always just being able to handle that seasonal swing and call volume. There's no set date when it's going to happen. It makes it, you're preparing for it, but there's not like the absolute date that comes, and you know that the clock changes every year at the same time. So it's being able to handle that seasonal swing and call volume that makes it really hard for companies, small especially, because that means that they're limited in their resources to be able to answer the phone. One of the greatest compliments that we get are, we work with companies that are small, that are medium, that are large. It's the owners that call up and say, my biggest issue is being able to answer the phone. I'm on a ladder, I'm in a crawl space, and that's a new business call. And you're trying to do the right thing by paying for marketing to make the phone ring, and then you miss that call. So not only did you miss the new business opportunity, but you paid to make the phone ring, and then you ultimately were servicing a customer's home. So it's being able to handle that no matter what, I think, is one of the biggest challenges.
It is, but that's why you got grit. I've had conversations with small companies, one person operators, and I'll always be like, why wouldn't you hire grit or get a call center, something? And it's always, you know what that costs? And I'm like, I know that it costs less than if you don't get the customer. That's all I could tell you. If you're not getting the customer, it's a different thought process when they're just thinking about the money. If you're getting missing calls, what is that actually costing you at a smaller level? You probably don't really know.
Yeah.
But I don't know too many people that are owner operators that are tracking lead cost as well as what it costs to actually get a customer. But I think if they did,
Oh,
it
if you
makes
looked at it that
sense.
way, it would be a no-brainer. It would be a
Yeah,
no-brainer to make sure that you had somebody answering that. I think that it's definitely sometimes also understanding all the things that go into it. Sometimes we get that as well. We get that pushback in our environment of for that price, I could just go hire someone. From a cost perspective on an employee, there's more that goes into it. There's the cost of even just the lights and the computer and the space that they're sitting in. Then there's the training and the time that it takes you to now move away from what you're focusing on to train this person so that they're gonna not just be somebody who can answer the phone, but somebody that can stick, right? And then also be of use to you because they can take the call as far as they can without having to put it back to you. So real training, being able to make somebody self-sufficient, takes longer than you think. And then there's also the management of that person. Can you be there every time that person needs to turn around and say, I have a question after the training period? And then also the ongoing reinforcement that needs to be. Part of the pain points I even had in my call center environment was we had a great team, but we never had time to meet with them. And we never had time to make sure that everybody was focused on the same goals and saying the same things and right, inspecting what you expect. So there's just more than just somebody's hourly rate and all that goes into it.
So that's interesting. You didn't do like weekly meetings or check-ins or anything like that when in the other call center?
When I worked in the company that I worked with, it was definitely always at the top of your agenda. It was the first thing to get crossed off when the phones blew up and you were just busy, right? It was always the first thing that got sacrificed was meeting with your team. And then you try to also meet outside of the times that the call volume is coming in. Can I get everybody in my call center space to come in at 7? Because phones go on at 8. And that was always a challenge and hard for everybody. There's definitely a difference now in being able to also leverage technology and communication platforms, but there's still some times that need to just be able to sit with everybody and let everybody engage and feed off of each other, right? And have that space where you're just all off the phones or all just concentrated on this meeting. And for that environment being in that call center management position, that was always the first thing that got crossed off and got sacrificed.
Yeah, we are trying to change that, but it is always the meeting is the first thing that gets moved or pushed. And by the time you know it, your Monday morning meeting is on Thursday at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But we do check-ins daily with technicians, and they are contemplating doing that with customer service. A daily check-in individually. If you're doing one-on-one daily check-ins as a customer service manager, it's easier than getting them all together. But that is something that I think is key. What'd you say? You said, because you got all these good sayings. Inspect what you expect. That's
a
what you
borrowed
said, yeah?
one. That's a borrowed one. Yep. Inspect what you expect. It's so
Whatever. I
true.
heard it from you. It doesn't matter who else it came from.
But yeah, for me, for my team, one-on-one is too much every day. I don't need daily. I probably need like weekly and I like monthly, depending on the need. But the ongoing touch is important. It's still really important to have your team together as well, because, okay, let me rewind. One-on-one meetings for me in my environment are used to understand how is this person doing personally. It has nothing to do with performance and metrics. And then monthly meetings are things that we use to talk about like performance and things like that. Because that one-on-one check-in with somebody is like, how are you doing? Take work aside from it. And you need that in this environment with your team and your people to see just how are they doing, not just, what's happening with work. They need that dialogue. And so then having monthly meetings is usually to go over like performance and goals. But then having everybody in the same room helps because everybody contributes, or that one person asks a question that the other person was too shy to talk about. And so that group setting is super important.
We started incorporating this question into interviewing because of what you're saying. We have a minimum once a month, the whole company meets and everybody comes in. How do you feel about that? Because we hired people that were like, I got to come back. Why do I have to come back to the office once a month? Never mind, you should be here. If you're a driving tech with us, you got to come back once a week at a minimum, obviously for supplies and whatnot. If you're a walk-in tech, it's different. But anyway, you've given us some bangers over the years. The putting a mirror at your desk so you're smiling. Stop asking, how can I help you? So, what are some new or key strategies or techniques for giving or delivering an exceptional customer experience?
Oh, good question.
No
Do I have any
pressure.
favorites? No pressure. Gosh, do I have any favorites? I think that for pest control professionals looking to enhance that skill set, I think that there's a need to start from, let's just rewind it and really go back and develop a great strategy from the day that you hire someone and what their experience is on day one, how you set the expectation for what the culture is in the company and what the job function is and what they're going to be expected to do and who they're going to be expected to grow into. I think that's something that I've also pivoted on. Training is great as long as you have a good kind of system in place to put that training forward. But it's really important that when somebody sits in that seat day one, that they understand like what they're signing up for and what the expectation is. And I think that if you set the right expectation from day one, that we're here to give great service, we're here to exceed customers' expectations, not just have a job, exceed expectations by learning these things, by going above and beyond, by giving the pickle. I think that's where it changes also what they do when they actually learn how to answer the phone, not say, how can I help you? Use the right words that are brain food. So I think that's where we've changed a little bit in our process. You can have all the answers. You can have all the training modules and this is what you say and how to say it, but really it's about the person that's implementing it. And I think that this is customer service. I think it's just one of those roles that when asked as a child, people don't list it on their top 3 things of what they want to be when they grow up. It just, maybe you've got the people that want to play with bugs and that's great. That's service. But we're talking about this position here, sitting in the seat, being on the phone. Can you sit for long periods of time? Can you wear a headset for long periods of time? Can you sacrifice knowing that morning breaks might be suspended because of the call volume? So understanding that's the job role from day one is that we live and die by the phones. Can people come in and adapt to that philosophy? Because sometimes it's short-lived, right? We might be flying by the seat of our pants for an hour or two and then it comes down, or maybe it's just that Monday and you need that mindset. That's what the season and that's what pest control is going to be. And I'm here for it.
What's up, everybody? Joey Sauce from Colony Confidential. Do you want the cheat code to have happy customers? Make sure you go and sign up for Order the Phone Call. We call it AOPC. It's your chance to learn from the leader in this space, Margaret Garcia from Grit PPO. Her team answers hundreds of phone calls every day for companies large and small, and she's teaching you the key secrets to closing sales on the phone, handling your customer complaints, and getting it all done in less time. Make sure to go visit us at theartofthephonecall.com.